Good afternoon. My name is Brendan Ogle and I come to the conference with greetings from the Irish water warriors, the Right2Water Ireland Irish movement, who have been campaigning for several months now in defence of our human right to water. It was very interesting yesterday afternoon as we listened to a discussion in the auditorium that the concept was being discussed of free water. And I felt it necessary yesterday afternoon to clarify that from our point of view in Ireland, I have not met a single person, or nobody, has expressed a view that water is free. Water is not free. Water, as we need it and as we use it, has to be processed and has to be brought to our homes. And this has a cost. So it would be a misunderstanding of the Irish situation and a misunderstanding of what is going on there to contextualise it in the case that water, Irish people don't want to pay for water and water is free, they think water should be free. That is not the case. The case isn't about whether we need to pay for it, we clearly do. The argument is about how we pay for it. And in Ireland, we believe we should pay for it through progressive taxation. We already believe we pay for it through progressive taxation, and in our Parliament this week, this was emphasised when it was demonstrated by parliamentarians that there are 4 taxes currently in place in Ireland, progressive taxes that we pay: income tax, value-added tax, property tax, car tax, all of which is assigned to provide for our water services. So what is actually happening here is the situation about another payment for water, a third or fourth or even a fifth payment for water has been placed on the agenda. And that came on the agenda in Ireland in 2009. 2009, the issue of a single metered water utility was placed on the Irish political agenda by the IMF, the ECB and the EU in a memorandum of understanding arrived at with our government. The situation arose, you all know about the financial crisis that arose all across Europe, and the situation arose that the Irish people were required in 2009 to socialise 42% of European debt. The Irish people represent less than 1% of the population of the European Union, and that has a cost of €9,000 each on each person, or on each individual in Ireland. If I can bring up the next slide, you will see how this is demonstrated in a very graphic demonstration. You can see there the cost of the European banking crisis per capita, and up there at the very top we have the cost to Ireland of just under €8,000. You can look through your own countries there. But clearly we found ourselves in a situation. That's a Eurostat statistic, by the way, that graph that you're looking at. Clearly we found ourselves in a situation where this little country with less than 1% of the population of the European Union is taking on 42% of a private gambling debt which our government overnight socialised while we slept in our beds. So what did we do? I think what we do for 4 or 5 years after that is we engage in a process of collective trauma. Collective trauma. And people would have expressed a view across Europe: what are the Irish doing about this? The Irish are very quiet, the fighting Irish, they're not fighting anymore. We were collectively traumatised. The country was on its knees, homelessness increased, unemployment increased, emigration went through the roof, and we found ourselves in a really difficult situation. And one part of the policy to deal with that situation was the insistence by the Troika, the IMF in particular, that we would establish a single water utility, issuing bills to our citizens, to their homes, and it would be a metered utility. So that's how it came on the agenda. We got on with our collective trauma for a while, and then eventually in 2014 we set up the Right2Water organisation. Right2Water Ireland has one shared belief: water is a human right, and one objective: the abolition of domestic water charges, end user charges. And there are 3 pillars to Right2Water. There is the trade union pillar. I'm a trade unionist, I'm an official for Unite Trade Union. There are 5 trade unions who make up the trade union pillar of Right2Water. There is a political pillar. Progressives of the political left and centre left, sometimes a bit further left and centre, quite a number of them, independents, political parties, and they make up the political pillar. And most importantly, we have the community pillar. The community pillar where these people with a socialised private gambling debt eventually came through their trauma and started to organise, to mobilise and to fight back on the water issue. So myself, my friend here with me visiting today, David Gibney from Mandate Trade Union and many, many others sat down and we developed the Right2Water platform. The Right2Water platform came along and we had some events. And what you see there is a photograph of our first event, a mass mobilisation of people in Dublin city centre on the 11th of October. People opposing Irish water, opposing domestic water charges, insisting we already pay for our water, we are not paying for it again. We planned that march, we expected maybe 20,000 people. Remember, you're dealing with a country with a population of less than 4.5 million people here. We were expecting maybe 20,000 people. We had a route agreed with the police of about 1 kilometre. We got over 100,000 people and the route had to be extended to 5.6 kilometres. It took 3.5 hours for the people at the end of the march to pass the platform. And what Right2Water.ie did is it didn't just place water on the political agenda, it made water the political agenda. In Ireland today, there are two things that primarily make up the political agenda: austerity and a fight back against austerity, and a very much linked fight against the introduction of these domestic water charges. So that was a big event, took us all by surprise, blew us away, blew the political establishment away, the right-wing media didn't know what to do with it. So, you know, there's lots of pictures. It was a peaceful protest, it was a family day out, we decided that's a big national event. We've had big events before in Ireland, not too many of them, but we've had big events in Ireland that have been successful. The necessary thing to do now was to consolidate the campaign. So we moved on to the 1st of November. And on the 1st of November, Right2Water arranged its next event. Right2Water Ireland arranged its next event. And its next event were demonstrations in 106 towns and villages all across Ireland. We felt it was very important, not just to bring people to Dublin in a mass mobilisation of opposition. We felt it was very important to embed the campaign in the towns, in the villages, in the streets, in the homes, around the dinner table, in the bars. So that's what the 1st of November was about. We embedded the campaign, over 200,000 people in the pouring rain. Rains a lot in Ireland. It rained a lot on the 1st of November 2014. But over 200,000 people came onto the streets all across Ireland, and the campaign took root in the streets and everywhere. You can see the rain, you can see the weather. It was a brilliant day. It was a beautiful day. And we proved that day water does fall from the sky. That brought us to the 10th of December. And the 10th of December was our last major event. And on the 10th of December, we tried to internationalise the Right2Water Ireland movement. We invited over from Detroit, the Detroit Water Brigade. The Detroit Water Brigade are a brigade of people, community activists who've been fighting water shutoffs in Detroit for the last year and a half. They use their own resources, they collect water from cities of Canada, New York, Chicago, and they bring water to families, to homes that have had their water shut off. And they also go around turning people's water back on, and they raise money to pay water bills. And we brought them over to explain to the Irish people that this is what happens. This is where this ideological privatisation, commoditisation of water brings you to. It brings you to families going to bed at night with no water coming out of the tap to feed the children. If that sounds dramatic, it's because it is dramatic. It's dramatic as that. And the Detroit people came to Ireland and they explained to us, this will not happen in Ireland next year, it will not happen in Ireland 2 years after, but keep going on this road and this is where you will end up. And you know, when we go back to Ireland tomorrow, it's going to come as a bit of a shock to some of the Right2Water followers who will be watching this presentation, and when we talk to them next week, to learn that in Italy, which is subject to the same union as us, which is subject to the same directive as us, people are having their water shut off. And it's going to come as a bit of a shock that here in France, even though it is unofficial and even though I understand it is unlawful, people are having their water shut off. We've been told by the media, by our government, by the European Union, this will not happen in Ireland. It's a Detroit thing, it's an American thing. It's happening in Italy, it's happening in France, and we're determined it will never happen in Ireland. So it was a huge, I've just thrown in some slides here to kind of might bring the mood, the flavour of what's going on in Ireland, it's a huge movement that has built up. At this stage we've brought hundreds of thousands of people onto the street. We've got some support from people like that fella there. He's English, the Irish, the English, you know, love-hate relationships. He's a good guy, Right2Water Ireland supporter. That's the Detroit Water Brigade. And now we're into a situation after these protests, after having built this movement, where it's about the next steps. And that's where our concentration is, the next steps. This week, there's a quote from Kofi Annan that I think sums up the situation as far as we are concerned. If there's enough noise, enough pressure, enough organisation, the leaders will follow the people. If the people are apathetic, and we've been apathetic for too long in Ireland, if the people are apathetic, if they do not vote, they are leaving the field open for politicians to do what they want. So we're trying to break down that apathy. We're trying to mobilise and radicalise people to fight back for their rights. And, you know, getting people on the streets is great. Getting people fighting against water meters is great. Getting people not paying their bills is great. But it's about the next steps. It's now about a strategy that must win. Our objectives are very, very clear. Progressive general taxation is the way to pay for water. Access to water should not be based on an ability to pay. That results in zero water poverty. And in Ireland today, because we currently pay for it through progressive taxation, the bills haven't started to arrive till April. We have zero water poverty. We believe water, in all of our interests, should be held in public ownership, not just today and tomorrow to change next week, in perpetuity. In some countries, our country, that will require a change in our constitution. We want to abolish user-end charges, and we want to stop wasting money. 570 million euro of our money has been wasted so far on installing meters. One of the companies doing it, the main company doing it, is Veolia. This is the home of Veolia, I believe, Marseille. Veolia, come out of Ireland, come back to Marseille. It's a beautiful place. We don't want you over there. Come back to Marseille, take your meters with you, and do it voluntarily. You're not wanted in Ireland. All you lovely people are welcome in Ireland. You're welcome to our next demonstrations. Let's have an exchange. You come to Ireland, Veolia, come back. So the next steps. It's about the next demonstration. The next demonstration will take place in March, and there will be a series of demonstrations. So you can all consider this to be an open invite to a national demonstration with all those pictures that you've just seen in March in Dublin. Dates will be announced, specific dates this week. And we have a non-payment position that many, many Irish citizens are adopting at the moment. And that's me up there, me. I will not pay this tax. I already pay for my water. I will not pay this tax. I will never pay for this tax, and I will take whatever consequences are to be faced down by not paying for this tax. And hundreds of thousands of Irish people in April, May, June, July will not pay for this water tax. But we need a strategy. That's not a long-term strategy, that's a tactic. We need a strategy, and it's a political strategy. It's going to have to be a political strategy because water charges are now law. And there's only one way to change the law, and that's to change the law. And the people who change the law are politicians. So we need to change those politicians, and we need to get those politicians implementing laws in Irish legislation, in our constitution, which is what the people want, which reflect what we wish. The problem and the solution has now become political. In terms of next steps, Right2Water Ireland will this week announce a series of events, a strategy that will see domestic water charges in Ireland abolished. That process in itself will deliver real social and political change. We've had enough of troikas, we've had enough IMFs and ECBs, we've had enough of it. It's time for real social and political change, and it's time that we in Ireland, and we hope this is replicated in other places, Greece, Spain, Italy, all across Europe, that we in Ireland give our people a parliament that puts them before the corporations on this issue, the water issue, and on other issues. You know, in Ireland we get told by our leaders, there he is there, his name is Enda Kenny, he's a very popular man with the leaders of France. He's a very popular man with the leaders of Germany. He's a very popular man in Brussels and Strasbourg. And he keeps telling us we need to be more like Europe. We disagree. Those people disagree. Those people think Europe needs to be more like us. Europe needs to be listening to what we are trying to do on water. public ownership, progressive taxation, public ownership in our constitutions, and available to all, paid for in that way. So I thank you all on behalf of Right2Water Ireland for your support, for the invitation. I'd love you all to stay in touch with us. That's our Facebook page, our website, and as far as we're concerned, the more of you we see in Dublin in March, the better. Thank you very much.
I have a 3.9 videos, so you can